All right, let's talk about RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. This was supposed to be the big fix, right? The key to making large language models factual, grounding them in real-world data so they stop, well, making stuff up.
But here's the thing that's driving a lot of us crazy. RAG was designed to stop AI from hallucinating, so why does it feel like we're still not getting the whole story? Even with RAG, the answers we get can be factually correct, sure, but they often feel incomplete. They're missing the bigger picture, the critical context that ties everything together. So what's going on?
Okay, so let's get right into it. The issue isn't really with RAG as a concept. The problem lies with the engine that's powering most RAG systems out there, a technique called vector search. And while it's super powerful, it's got this one massive blind spot. So what exactly is vector search? Well, in a nutshell, it finds chunks of text that are semantically similar to your question. It's basically looking for text that sounds like what you're asking about. But here's the catch, the big blind spot. What happens when the most important piece of the puzzle doesn't sound anything like your question? Think about it like this. It's like you walk into a library and ask the librarian for every single page that has the word engine on it. What you get back is this random pile of disconnected pages, one from a car manual, another from a financial report talking about economic engines, and a third from a biology textbook, all technically relevant, but you have absolutely no idea how they're connected. And that's the real takeaway here. Vector search is fantastic at finding things that are similar in meaning, no question. But where it falls short is in uncovering the relationships between different bits of information, especially when they're not written in similar language. And guess what? It's in those relationships where the real story, the true context, is hiding. It's what some people are calling context blindness. So this leads us to our first next-gen solution, and it's a really cool one, GraphRag. Instead of just hunting for similar words, GraphRag is built from the ground up to understand how different pieces of information are actually connected. It creates what's called a knowledge graph, which is basically a map of relationships. To really see how much of a game changer this is, let's walk through a great case study from AWS. We're going to follow a made-up company called Example Corp. They've just launched this hot new AI-powered toy, the widget. And, well, things are about to get interesting. So at first, things look amazing. The widget is made in Taiwan, and Example Corp has this major logistics partner to ship it worldwide. And get this, retailers in the UK have already ordered over 1 million units. From the looks of it, they've got a massive hit on their hands. But then, some other bits of information start popping up from totally different documents. We find out the shipping partner is going to use a new route, the fictitious canal, to get things delivered faster. But then, a separate news report drops, saying that very same canal is now totally blocked by landslips, causing huge supply chain chaos. Now notice this. The words canal and landslip have pretty much zero semantic similarity to sales or widget. All right, so here it is, the big question for any business analyst looking at this data. You've got to pull all of this together, the sales numbers, the shipping plans, the breaking news, to figure out what the real sales prospects are for Example Corp in the UK. And wow, this slide just says it all. Look at this. On the left, you've got the standard vector RAG system. Its answer, sales prospects, appear to be very strong. It totally, completely missed the bad news. But on the right, GraphRag tells the whole story. It says prospects were promising initially, but there are potential supply chain issues. It actually saw the entire picture. So why did the first system fail so badly? Well, this is the key. The source material explains that the news about the canal blockage was just sufficiently dissimilar to the question about sales. To vector search, that critical piece of news was basically invisible. It just never saw it. GraphRag, though, it played a completely different game. It didn't just look for similar words, it followed the chain of relationships it had already mapped out. It saw that Example Corp was connected to its shipping partner, which was connected to a specific shipping route, which, was connected to the blockage. It literally connected the dots. Okay, so let's check out a second major solution that's popping up. This one's called Vectorless RAG, and it's a wild idea. It basically throws the whole concept of semantic similarity out the window. Instead, it uses a document's own structure, its chapters, sections, headings, as a kind of map. And I love this quote from a developer on Reddit who explained it perfectly. He said, "The system first builds a document tree, and then the LLM only decides which sections in that tree are relevant. So instead of a blind search, you're building a structured map first, then using the AI's brain to navigate it." Yeah, the perfect way to think about this is like instead of searching an entire library for random keywords, you're handing the AI a single book's table of contents. Then you're letting it intelligently decide which chapter or even which subsection of that chapter holds the answer. It's incredibly targeted, it's efficient, and it actually uses the logic built right into the document. So how does this navigation actually work? Well, it's a really smart, logical process. First, the AI looks at where it is in the document's structure. Then it asks itself a simple question. Is the answer here, or do I need to dig deeper? If it needs to go deeper, it intelligently picks the most relevant subsection and does the whole thing over again, and just keeps drilling down until it pinpoints the exact answer. This means you get way less noise and much, much higher precision, especially if you're working with something complex, like a technical manual or a legal contract.
So, what's the big picture here? It means that our toolkit for building really smart, reliable AI systems just got a massive upgrade. We're finally moving beyond that one-size-fits-all approach to RAG. And this right here is your practical guide, your RAG toolkit. Traditional vector search, still awesome for quick, simple questions. But graph RAG, that's what you pull out when you need to uncover those hidden connections across a ton of different documents. And Vectorless RAG, that's your champion for digging through big, structured documents. Think reports, manuals, where you need a super precise, targeted answer. So you see, the big evolution here isn't just about finding facts anymore. It's about understanding context. We're witnessing a huge shift away from simple keyword matching and towards something that looks a lot more like real contextual reasoning. And that is what's going to make our AI assistants not just knowledgeable, but genuinely insightful. And that brings us to one last, pretty mind-bending question. As these systems get better and better at reading between the lines, connecting all these different pieces of information, are they just getting better at retrieving stuff, or are they actually starting to understand it? That line is getting blurrier every single day. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.